For the 12th episode of the World Triathlon podcast, we continue on our Olympic theme with a special edition featuring 6 of the world's best looking back at last year's Tokyo test event. We were in the company of Kristian Blummenfelt, Miriam Casillas, Flora Duffy, Mislawchuk, Rappaport and Henri Schoeman as they relived the women's and men's races and followed Tommy Zaferes on a preview of the Tokyo 2020 bike course. We get to hear how they handled the heat, the pressures of qualification and the brand new course, and how it will shape their approaches to the main event in 12 months' time. Great to have you here. Hope you're all well. We're going to start with a run through of the bike course Tommy Zaferes did during the Bike Fam. Then we have the women's race and then the men. We will get underway. Before we start, Henri, I know you've been not very well. Good to see you here. Hope you are recovering well and everything's okay. You feeling better?
Yeah, like I've passed the worst. It's been 3 weeks that, I haven't been training and trying to get over the worst parts, but still struggling with like a bit of fatigue and headaches and some of the symptoms, my taste and smell is still trying to come back. I've really missed the coffee smell and taste. So, like the worst is behind us, and I think I'm pretty happy about that.
And everyone else doing okay. Kristian, you've been touring Europe lately, I see. How did it go? How did you go in Austria?
It was good. I think we finally got the chance to travel again on the 15th of July. So on the 16th, I were on the plane to Austria. So it was nice to kind of feel a little bit more back to normal. So we've been now 3 weeks, done 2 races in Austria, and like earlier tonight or yesterday, I came to France for a build-up that's supposed to go into the European Championship in 4 weeks, and also Hamburg. But now it seems pretty dark with the European Championship, but hopefully we can get to Hamburg and race there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, obviously. Flora, whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm in South Africa, so like Henri, but a different part of the country. I'm in Stellenbosch. Mm-hmm. But I'm usually not here this time of the year, but we're unable to travel. It's very difficult to leave South Africa at the moment. So it's been my first winter in many years, but it's a pretty nice winter here.
Yeah, there's worse places to be than Stellenbosch if you're going to be stuck somewhere, right?
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
Well, great to have you here. Thanks. And Summer, whereabouts are you right now?
I'm currently in Durham, North Carolina. My husband was relocated here for his job over the winter. So when everything went on lockdown, I was coming home to a new home for the first time. But it was kind of nice to have a new place to explore.
Good stuff. And Miriam, are you in Spain?
Yeah, I'm actually now in my hometown, and it's in the south of Spain. And pretty warm here, mostly like in Tokyo right now. So training here, like waiting for travel or competitions.
Tyler, lockdown started kind of strange for you, right?
Yeah. I'm in a different spot now. I drove 25 hours. I live in the center of Canada. I'm on the west coast now, so that's how big Canada is. I drove from the middle to just to the coast, and it was 25-hour drive. So I'm on the west coast island here.
With everyone checked in, it was time to follow Tommy Zaferes around the bike course that they will all be tackling in 12 months' time in Tokyo. It was kind of slick out there for the familiarization, dry for the women's race, kind of wet for the men's race as well. Tyler, how were you finding the course in terms of, I know like the paint on the streets has been specially done so that it's non-slick and it kind of doesn't reflect the heat quite so much. Did it feel like a course you could attack? It was grippy and so on, or?
Yeah, it was pretty smooth. I'd say the one thing in the men's race was we had extremely high winds, and coming in it out of the buildings I'd say that was probably the biggest factor where it got a little bit bunched up or side winds. And I think a lot of people were riding pretty deep dish wheels, and I know I was, and I think it really affected the race. Yeah, it's an 8-lap course. Flora, how did you find it out there? There's a lot of turns that you can really attack, but there's a few, particularly the way that the course is kind of some of the transitions between sections of the course and some ramps
it's quite a different course to a lot of the ones that are out there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the course was amazing. Before I arrived in Tokyo, my husband and I, we were scouting the course out on Google Maps. And yeah, it was interesting to see because they built a whole ramp over the beach where we rode. We were looking at it, we were like, wow, are we going to ride over that? So it was pretty cool that, yeah, the surfaces did change a lot. Very technical, lots of tight turns. Yeah, so it was very challenging out there, but I mean, yeah, great.
Yeah, Kristian, not quite necessarily the some of the hills and stuff that you would perhaps like to be attacking, but
I think what was really special on the test event were the wind, and the wind was really making the course, I guess, because like from this point of the race or from this point of the course and all the way into transition almost, you had tailwind, which made it very easy to just go to the front and stretch out the field. And I guess that was maybe the biggest impact on the bike course.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not really sure if that will be the same in the Olympics, or if it was just like on kind of typical weather we had on the day. So I think that can be a big change for Olympics.
Henri, how there's a lot of different surfaces as well throughout the course that you're kind of contending with. How much of that are you aware of as you're riding? Do you have to kind of change your style to suit some of those different surfaces, or there's tiling there and obviously a lot of carpet through transition and so on?
If it's dry, you don't have to really change too much. I think it becomes more important when it starts raining or you have like a wet surface and you're changing surface. Then you've got to really be careful, especially with the manhole covers. Those can really be slippery if it's wet. And yeah, like I think through these technical bits, positioning is quite a big thing, because if you like towards the back where we're looking at now, like you can get the group normally splits up and then you'll find yourself in trouble.
And then there's a couple of, well, this is like the sharpest hairpin kind of on the course, I guess. And then I think it's down into the tunnel shortly after. What kind of, do you have a sense of like what kind of speeds you were hitting, Miriam, for example, like coming down those straights into the tunnel? Are we talking sort of 60 kilometers an hour kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I don't remember the speed. I don't know, but we go pretty fast. I think this is one of the hardest section of the course, because you go in a line after the technical part, and here is when you can push. Is an easier, not technical part. So it's where everybody like want to be on front before. If not, you are gonna push a lot to be on the group again here, or to make the difference. So I think it's one of the hardest sections of the course, because you have the downhill, but also an uphill at the end of the tunnel and another U-turn.
You want to kind of use that speed that you've obviously generated coming back up that hill after.
It's the section when everybody is like in a line totally, because you go after the technical part, but here is where you can push. So going to another U-turn is you need that speed and that moment to go on the front of the group again if you want to be there and to have a good position to be in, to suffer less than the people that is going on the back.
Summer, how did you find it out there? A course that no one's ever ridden on. During the bike fam, were you like just trying to take in and remember as much as possible? How do you kind of approach the familiarizations?
Yeah, absolutely. I try to scope out the courses in advance and try to understand what the most difficult sections of the course will be going in, and then try to challenge myself on those sections during the course familiarization. I had actually visited Odaiba, where the Tokyo course is, after the Yokohama race in May, a few months earlier. And it was pretty incredible just to see how much had been built up. It was pretty hard to imagine what it was going to become after seeing it just 3 months earlier. So it was definitely interesting to ride on the ramp for the first time and actually see where some of the turns on the far end that went onto the highway where they actually ended up coming out, because it was pretty hard to picture a few months earlier.
Yeah, so that ramp wasn't even there then
No, it was just a bike path, and we knew that they had to do something because it would have been very, very tight in a big group if it had just stayed as it was.
It was an early start, certainly. I mean, Flora, as far as starting your kind of Olympic racing, presumably you don't want to be waiting until the end of the day to have to start your event. It's quite nice to get them out of the way early, is it?
Yeah, well, usually with WTS racing, we never start that early. It's usually like midday or 4 p.m. start. So I was definitely kind of surprised, and you finish the race and you're like, wow, I have the whole day to actually do whatever I want, which was kind of a strange feeling. But yeah, I mean, racing in Tokyo, you definitely wanted to start early because it was so hot, hot and humid. And the sun rose so early that actually starting at 7 a.m., I think we did, it didn't feel like 7 a.m. It actually felt like midday just because the sun had been up since like 4 a.m. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, it was nice to be done, over and done with before you could really overthink it too much.
And so for the women's race, obviously the temperatures, the heat stress indicators were high enough to shorten the run course from 10 to 5 kilometers. Miriam, you know, how soon before the start do you get that kind of information, and how does it affect your immediate pre-race build-up? I mean, obviously that is a decision made early on the morning of the race. It can't be any sooner than that, right?
Well, actually, it's kind of funny because I didn't knew that until I finished my warm-up, because I listened on the background that someone was speaking about that is 5K, and before, with a problem with the emails and everything, I didn't know it. So it was kind of funny because I couldn't change anything, but also like, yeah, we trained for that race, but we trained for that 10K. We've been ready for there, and in that moment you just have to adapt. So in that moment there's nothing to change. Just go for it.
And Summer, were you're used to kind of hot water swimming as well, but it was very warm water. Was that the sort of conditions that you were feeling you could put together one of your best swims?
Yeah, I've done quite a few World Cups in Mexico, and I've performed pretty well in those. So I thought I had a lot of experience racing in the heat. I know how to adjust my warm up, how to like when to put on an ice vest and when to kind of take those measures. I don't think I had ever done an Olympic I take that back. I think I've done one Olympic distance in similar conditions. So that was a little bit of a switch. But I felt that I was well prepared just from the World Cup experience that I had had.
And Flora, for you, it must have just felt great to be back on a race start line as much as anything, right? I mean, it had been a torrid 14 months or so with the injury. So just to be back there must have felt incredible.
Yeah, it was so nice to be back racing. It had been over a year since I'd last raced, and yeah, it had been a pretty brutal year. So coming into this race, it was quite nerve-wracking because obviously there was a lot on the line. This was an Olympic selection race for most countries, and you're racing at the test event, so that's already quite like a prestigious event. So for me, I was like, yeah, quite nervous. Didn't really know if I still had it. They're very tough race conditions to come back to as well. But I will say, when I woke up at 4 a.m. or whatever, I turned my alarm off the phone and I saw the email from World Triathlon about it being switched to a 5K. And for me, I was just like, oh, thank goodness. Because a 10K would have been pretty brutal for me at that point in my return to run. I really had not done the amount of running that you need to put together a decent 10K in those conditions off an Olympic distance swim and bike. So that was nice. Though truthfully, I don't think it should have been shortened. I don't think the conditions were too extreme, but that's another topic. but yeah, it was great to race and get on the start line. But it was brutal. It was full on. I didn't remember that WTS swims were so hard and fast, and that water was so warm. Yeah, it was ugly out there.
But I mean, yeah, the the heat stress indicators are obviously there, that you have to kind of, whenever those limits are reached, then the decisions have to be made. But at the same token, everyone's hot weather preparations had obviously been impeccable. Miriam, where had you come into this race having done a specific hot weather training in a, were you in a lab, or were you just in Thailand or somewhere doing your preparations?
Well, we were doing like a long period of heat preparation, and we also with summer, we arrived there to Japan. We stayed in Tateyama for 10 days before the race, so like almost 2 weeks before the race. And yeah, we've been doing like for the whole year heat prep in every place we've been, and that last 10 days was the last acclimatization to the heat. And yeah, I think like the water temperature was probably the worst of the heat, more than the run of the bike. That was maybe what we were expecting, but I think know how to swim in a warm water was the more, like, I think was the worst in that moment. So the best you can achieve if you are ready for that.
Right. I mean, so how does that differ? How does the temperature of the water affect your swim start then? Talk us through just that. Is it the sensation? And it's obviously, you're sweating a lot more than usual, I guess, as you would on the run of the bike.
Well, yeah, you have your whole body inside the water, so you don't have like wind to refresh you a bit, or you cannot put water over you, or you are just like on that temperature, your whole body, even your head and everything. So I think it's really difficult to cool down for your body, and it just make the swim harder. I think the feeling of, really, really ugly and hard out there.
So obviously, as Flora said, there was Olympic qualification on the line for a lot of the athletes. Summer, the USA criteria was pretty clear cut in a way, complicated, but at least clear cut. Can you just explain that for us?
So in Tokyo, up to 2 athletes could qualify, but one athlete had to finish on the podium, and the second athlete had to finish in the top 8 for 2 to qualify. If we had 2 in the top 8 but nobody on the podium, then just the first athlete in the top 8 would qualify. And if we had 3 athletes in the top 8, still only the first 2 would potentially the top 2 would qualify. Mm-hmm. And it's looking to be a similar procedure for the test event that has yet to be selected, or the selection event that has yet to be chosen for next year. It was originally going to be Yokohama this year. So 2 spots are still up for grabs for the women, and potentially 3 for our men. I think that they're one of the last federations to be in the bubble for 3 spots right now, if the qualification were to end right now. Mm-hmm. But only 2 can qualify automatically if we get 3 spots.
Right. Just to bring the fellas in, because obviously this is the women's race, but we don't want to leave you hanging out. So, Henri, as far as the qualification for you, presumably there wasn't anything riding specifically on this race, and it's just it's a little more straightforward for you and Richard in terms of South African team qualification.
Yeah, our qualification is pretty simple. We just have to essentially qualify under the ITU standards. So I think that's it's top 25 ranked. So we basically just have to reach that.
Yeah, and Tyler?
Yeah, I'm kind of up in the air because our last event was Yokohama. So if I went top 8 there, I'd qualify. But I think just like everyone now, it's if you haven't qualified, it's kind of hard to tell. you kind of just do your training, and just like we don't know if racing will happen, same way with qualifications. It's not worth stressing over it for me at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just back to the race then. Summer, you had a great swim. You came out, I think you were just behind Jess coming out of the water. Is that right?
That's right. She had a pretty big gap on everyone. She has such good start out speed. She was able to avoid the congestion, just kind of get way ahead.
Yeah, and then obviously she put the hammer down straight away. Katie just tucked in behind, and then Flora back on a bike and chasing for the first time in 14 months. Like I said, you know, that must have been a great feeling.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. It was obviously great to be racing, but yeah, it was hard. I mean, I had a bit of a shaky swim. Jess was pretty phenomenal out there. Clearly the warm water didn't affect her at all. I mean, she just kind of swam away from us. I don't know if maybe on that second lap, well, the change from first lap to second lap, whoever was on her feet must have just dropped off. I don't know. Summer was up there, so she could probably give a bit of a blow by blow of how Jess managed to just sneak off the front. But yeah, she was riding really well. I don't know if Katie was being a bit more strategic, but she didn't seem like she could ride up to Jess. So then it was just, us in the group trying to just get to the front of the race. And for me, I knew that I couldn't really rely on my run. So I just needed to make this bike sort of as hard as possible and just to keep myself in the race for as long as possible. We're coming up to Katie's crash. So this is an interesting, quite scary point of the race. I'm not quite sure how Katie managed that, but she just sort of took a pull, drifted, and clipped the barrier. It sounded horrible. Yeah.
You were right with her.
Yes, Summer, would you have also maybe have seen a bit more? Katie was quite close to me, and it was just like, sounded horrific. I'm not quite sure.
I didn't really see it. I just heard bikes hitting the ground, and I didn't really know what happened.
Yeah.
I had quite a big surge to get back onto the pack after that.
Yeah, it's kind of like panic. What happened? Yeah. So that was quite a crazy moment.
Yeah. So that was the end of Katie's race. Kirsten Casper was able to get back on, and I think Miriam, did your group then? Did she then join your group? I can see you there with Taylor, Sophie Caldwell, Non Stanford. Were you guys feeling like you were able to kind of make some headway into the group, into the lead group?
Well, we were riding pretty hard, but the time were increasing. So I know like Flora, Jess, and all of the first group were riding really, really hard. I think it's a better course for a small group, but also they were riding really strong. And yeah, Kristen randomly appeared in our group, and we didn't know what was going on the front of the group. I just saw that she has a cut on the leg, but I didn't know if someone more crashed or not. So we were really focusing in our job in that moment, and and go as hard as we can and stay in there.
Yeah, Flora, I mean, would you have said, a group of 6 working together with, the likes of Alicia Beto and Jess Limont, was that kind of an ideal front group as far as you were concerned? If you weren't, presumably you weren't looking to make a huge breakaway in your first race back for a long time, so you were able to stretch out the lead and work well together.
Yeah, no, that's like perfect scenario. We worked pretty well together. For the most part. I mean, definitely whenever Jess is in there, and obviously Katie, it's just like, that's like great to have those two in there. And then sometimes you need to encourage and shout at a few others to come take some pulls, which is just part of the game. But yeah, we worked super well together, and on a technical course like that, as Miriam said, having a smaller group is just so much better, so much more efficient through the corners. And then, here we are onto the run. This was like uncharted territory for me. I was like, oh gosh, running off a bike. Haven't done this in a while. So I just tried to really just focus on not losing too much time to Jess and Georgia. and just every water station, just taking 2 or 3 bottles just to keep myself as cool as possible and get as much as liquid in. Because yeah, it was starting to get pretty warm out there.
Yeah. And Summer, you'd kind of come off the back of that front bike pack, but from the inroads you then made into the leaders in the run, you were obviously, your legs were feeling pretty good as well. And, you know, to the extent that you might have been a bit disappointed that it was a 5K, not a 10K, were you?
Yeah, I was. I feel like I do pretty well over 10K, and I felt like I could perform well over a longer run in hot conditions. But I thought that I did the best I could with the race that we were presented with, and it was enough for that day, fortunately for myself.
So yeah, after one lap then at the bell, Flora, you were 8 seconds off Jess and Flora, Jess and Georgia. And yeah, definitely starting to be relieved that it was a 5K race, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
And the heat, like at large, I mean, you know, you said, a lot of people said that, you know, actually the conditions weren't as bad as, weren't as hot as they'd felt. So you were still feeling pretty good over that last lap yourself.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the heat wasn't an issue at all. I did a really good heat prep. I mean, I'm from Bermuda. This is like a normal summer day in Bermuda. So, and I've raced well in hot conditions before. Honestly, for me, I just hadn't done the run volume. So that was really difficult. But yeah, so coming into this, I was really keen to see a sprint finish between the two. I thought there would be a high five and off they would go, because I was still kind of in sighting distance. So I was really thrown when they grabbed hands and then crossed the line together. So that was kind of interesting. But then I was also like just so relieved to somehow manage third in my first race back at the test event. And yeah, it was a big sigh of relief.
You finished in what position, Summer? And so you were just outside the top 8.
So my spot still would have been safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was moved up to 5th.
Miriam, for you, you not at the time, but you finished 2019 as the first Spanish woman qualifier, right, for Tokyo?
Yeah. Right now I have the qualification, like, and our federation say to us that they will keep the spots that are already qualified. So yeah, I had one of the spots. Like, we had criteria for Tokyo and also for the whole 2019, and I did that qualification. So yeah, now even that this is like 1 year more, I'm calm with that I can like be focused in training for the race.
Yeah, to have that extra year and not have that worry looming over, that must feel good.
Well, yeah, I feel pretty calm with that. Yeah, because now it's pretty difficult. We don't know if there's gonna be racings or no, and everything is, yeah, it's difficult time now. But it's good to know that I'm gonna be there, and yeah, I can be focused and be ready only for that race, and that's my goal and my mental focusing.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks for that. And we will move over to the men's race now. Kristian, as far as qualification, you were obviously at Rio 2016, for which your qualification was fairly complicated, right? How mentally and how does the relative ease of what should be this approach to your second Olympic Games, does that allow you to sort of savor and focus on that particular race that much more, do you think?
Yeah, it was quite two different qualifications, because going into the 2016 race, I was actually, when the whole qualification period started, I wasn't even high enough ranked to get into the races I needed to. So I barely made it into the World Cups. But then, like, in the very last few races, I managed to get some top spots that made me qualified for Rio Olympic Games. But since then, I've kind of more been able to prepare and just getting ready for the 2020 and taking the qualification almost as it would be safe to get qualified, because all we need to do is to be top 30 or 3 guys top 30, and then everyone will be able to go. And I think at the moment I'm like top 10, Gustav is around 15, and Kasper just around 20. So at the moment we have like all qualified and ready to go. So actually now with the 1 extra year into the hopefully the Olympics games, we now will try to get a second girl up, so we can have a shot at that final mixed relay spot as well. So that's kind of our new ambition now.
Okay, so yeah, we'll move to the men's race. The temperature was a little down on the women, so it was the full 10K run. And Henri, you know, you're building up to what will be your second Olympics. Did you feel going into the test event that this was the first step, obviously, in that next Olympic campaign, and that you can approach it in a slightly different way this time around, it being your second one? And do you feel like, did you learn a lot during the Rio build up and race itself that you can bring towards this qualification period and the race itself in Tokyo?
The preparation was very similar to what I've done in the build up to Rio. So for me, I mean, I didn't have any pressure on myself to perform or not to perform. I just went to Tokyo test event purely to see the course, test it out, test the heat. Exactly that, you know, testing it out and seeing what it's all about. So for me, I felt very confident in how my fitness had progressed and where I was at before that time. But it was actually quite interesting is that we made a couple of errors in terms of the final few days preparation. So, you know, that's something that I'm going to take with me, and that's what I've learned. And definitely, well, hopefully next year that I'll be able to, you know, fine tune that and get it 100% right.
Yeah. Jake Bertelsmann obviously went in at number 1, and Tyler, I mean, looking at that top 10, given the World Series season that we'd had with, you know, you on the podium and Helle Heens and Dorian Connings getting their first gold. So that the season up to that point had been wide open, and it's not like, you know, Mario had dominated the year before and so on. So this race, perhaps more than any of that kind of level, was completely open, and on a new course as well. There were certainly opportunities there for like, you know, 20-25 athletes to really make that play for the gold.
Yeah, someone asked me like a few weeks before the test event, you know, who I thought was going to do well, and I didn't have an answer because the year had been so shaken up compared to previous years. We had so many different guys on the podium. And again, when it comes to these hot races, it's sometimes unpredictable what the body, you can do as much heat prep as you want, but something goes off in your hydration or you mess something up a day before the race and your body can be off. So yeah, I think even going into the race, I wasn't thinking about who was going to be, you know, my competitors. It was just like probably the same as these guys, was just do what I'm doing and we'll see who's there.
This was definitely one of your strongest swims as well, would you say?
Yeah, I don't swim well in the cold water. It's not a secret. And so I think just when it's hot water, I think everyone slows down a bit, and I kind of just swim the same speed as I normally do. Like summer, I've raced in Hotoko this year. So I skipped Leeds WTS on purpose because the only race similar to Tokyo was Hotoko on the calendar. So we made the decision that I probably wasn't going to be chasing a World Series overall rank. That I was going to be doing specific races. So same thing in Hotoko. I was first out of T1, which normally wouldn't happen. But because the water temperature was higher, I was able to swim a little bit faster.
Having the Olympics in Tokyo in water that is, I mean, it's up to, you know, in the high 20s, right? So that alone gives you that little edge of confidence going into a race that you know, if it was in a cold water, then you would immediately feel at a disadvantage.
Yeah, and I think in general, I like a lot before the start, everyone was putting on ice vests, and I didn't even actually put on an ice vest for the race because I got out of the water warm up, and with the wind, I was actually a little bit cold. So I'm quite sensitive to the cold, and it's something that even on a hotter day, obviously I can introduce an ice vest, but something that I didn't even have to do on the day because for me it didn't feel that warm.
So we're now at the halfway point of the swim. Presumably you were expecting to see Richard Varga behind you, Henri?
Yeah, generally it's either me or him leading out the swim, and you know, I just wanted to kind of see if I could stretch the field out a little bit on this particular day, because I know, you know, if you're bringing your heart rate up there and you're almost redlining it, you're not going to be able to hold it, especially when the temperatures are over 30 degrees in the water. It's basically like a sauna. So, and with a bit of chop, you know, it can also spread it out a little bit further. So yeah, I was just basically, you know, I'm wasting energy, but just seeing what happens after I do that.
Yeah, Kristian, I mean, as Henri said, there was a bit of chop out there, despite the fact that it's a bay swim, so you know you shouldn't be expecting too much in the way of waves. But could you get a sense that the wind was kind of creating a little bit of chop in there as well?
Yeah, you definitely felt like the difference between swimming out from the pontoon and back again, and especially on the way back from the buoys to the pontoon, I think it was kind of you felt like the pace was suddenly higher again, because then you got like less drafting benefits from the guys in front. And also I find it very hard, like, so sometimes I can be feeling really good in the swim and then having a crappy swim and being far back, and then here I was lucky to kind of be up front and had a quite good swim. I think I was next to Johnny for most of the swim, and also with Tyler. So I was actually quite surprised when I saw the live coverage afterwards to see like how far up front they were on the swim there on the day.
Yeah, that buoy was looking pretty hectic as well. So good to be out of that. Henri, you don't tend to be too involved in that, I suppose.
I have before, and that's generally why I make sure I rather be in front.
Yeah, that sounds wise. And then coming, obviously, you know, it was a test event. The crowds were good crowds in the transition grandstands there. But I'd be kind of interested to know, like, as you came out of the water 4 years ago in Copacabana, did you really sense like the crowd's roar as you were coming up the beach and into transition that first time?
Oh, yeah, it's just another experience. It's on another level. It's just it's amazing. Like, you just come out of the water, because generally you don't hear much apart from the water, and you emerge out of the water and you just hear the roars and the screams from the crowds, and it's quite something else. And it's it's I'm very fortunate to be able to experience that. And
then coming out first, was your intention, well, talk us through what your kind of tactics would be right now. You know, you've got a decent lead, not a huge one. Would you then be looking to try and extend that a lot? Obviously not really aware of exactly how other people were going to come out of transition. Is it you just going red line for the first section of that first lap?
You know, just getting into my own pace. Basically, I mean, I knew the field was a little bit stretched out. I had a look back. We kind of came around a little, a bit before we finished the swim, and I could kind of see the field was stretched out a little bit. So, you know, I kept the pressure on in the front, but early on, we kind of got into a small little group, which was perfect. Like, I thought, okay, this is great. We're going to hopefully get away. We've got strong winds, which can maybe be in our favor sometimes, but there was just no one really wanting to put any work down. Like, I tried to bring the guys through, but no one was really working. They're just kind of sitting up. I think they're more scared of the heat and the fatigue that you'd get later on in the race. But I think next year in the actual Olympics, I don't think that would really happen.
Kristian, you had a mountain line violation, right? Was that just absolute over eagerness at trying to kind of get on and get up with that front pack?
Yeah, I think so. I think I was just like having like a double tap over the line that made me getting like touching the shoes a little bit too early. But I didn't really know that before like get well into the bike. But again, I crashed out on the bike, so I didn't really have to stand in the penalty tent. But I guess it would have impacted the race if I had to. Yeah, you would never like to start a run with a 15 seconds deficit.
No. So at the time you didn't realize that it had happened.
No.
But
and of course, I knew that I was like just behind the front group, and I really had to do whatever I could to catch up. And I think I was like sprinting all I had, like the first lap, to be able to bridge up to the first back.
Yeah, well, you had good company, right? You had Martin Van Riel and Dorian Connings, I think, and like the three of you made up the gap pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think we used like a lap basically before we came up, and then I had like a lap of recovery before I managed to move myself to the front.
Yeah, and then it was, a good kind of 30 athletes in that huge train. So at what point was the crash, and what occurred during it?
I think it was with 2 laps to go, so it was quite late. So I managed to get like a sense of the course and get through a few times. So good experience to kind of feel how it is to race in the heat, even though it was super warm on the day, and you never really know how it is to start running after the bike. So it's still kind of unknown how I would have been reacting after racing that hard from the gun. As you could see, a lot of the guys in the front pack were kind of blowing up. I think it was getting a little bit like more pressure from behind. People wanted to get into the front before the headwind section after transition, and then I was kind of for 5-10 seconds a little bit careful, and suddenly I was at the tail of the group, going out of transition, and on one of the white lines, I think Martin Van Riel was slipping on the wet surface, and then I was thinking maybe going like on the inside of him, like I tried in Hamburg to Andreas Schilling, but then his bike was kind of snapping back out again, and I was kind of tackled down by him that way. So then in the race here, I was kind of thinking opposite. I could just try to brake as much as possible, but then I just went into the fence instead. I think it was with like a lap and a half to go almost.
Right. And Tyler, you were there kind of tucked in, spent quite a lot of time, it looked like, in sort of third, fourth wheel there. Was that a deliberate, not wanting to drift further back and get into what could have been a bit of trouble? You had Matt Sharp there obviously with you as well. He's very easy to spot.
Yeah, Matt's a bit taller than me, so I'm hitting a lot. Yeah, it just on a course like this, I think a lot of people underestimated the sting that it would put in the legs, because it was just so on off, especially as the group got bigger and bigger. It was the normalized power versus the average power was quite different, even being near the front of the group. So the strategy, obviously, with any race is to minimize the damage on the legs when you know it's going to be one big group, which now we're watching is kind of all the players are pretty much back in the race now. I think, like Henri said, I think being a hot, everyone was a little bit nervous starting the bike, just not to overextend. But I can't see it being the same next year. If you have a group like we had of 12 guys off the front, I think that group's gone. But I can't tell the future, but that would be my guess.
Yeah, Henry, would you agree? Like, it's far more likely that there's going to be a couple of people kind of trying to put the hammer down and really test, or I suppose kind of get rid of just break up that front group and ask the question of a few more people earlier on.
Yeah, I think a big thing about it is it depends who's in the group. And if you just have like the right nations who have the similar tactics as what I go for, then definitely I think the group will get away. But I mean, like Tyler said, you can't tell the future, but Olympics has its history for a breakaway.
So yeah, how were the legs, Tyler, as you were putting the bike away and getting out those first strides?
I think whether you, whenever you get off the bike, even if you feel good or bad, the first few steps, you never really know. At least for myself, it usually takes a few hundred meters for you to kind of realize where you're at. Just the pressure, you haven't been standing, you jump off your bike, and my legs are always weak. So I didn't really know where I was at until I would say about 500 meters into the run.
Henry, whereabouts were you as you were coming out of the second transition then? Also, like, very well placed, right? Oh yeah, well, there you go, very well placed in third.
Yeah, I had a pretty good transition, and like, yeah, I mean, you never know how your legs are going to feel until you actually start running. And for me, I actually, as soon as I started running, the first 500 meters, I knew I'm not right. But I just pushed through just so that I could finish the whole race and the feel the run, what it's like in the humidity. I mean, we didn't have the day that we were kind of expecting with the heat and the humidity. So yeah, I mean, it would have been good to have a real good test of that, but nevertheless, I had a pretty good result. Like, I think it was 7th, 8th, or 9th, one of those positions, and I mean, I can take a lot away from that, so I was pretty happy.
Summer and Flora, Miriam, were you guys watching this race at the time? Were you course side or watching on Triathlon Live or?
Yeah, I watched the first half from my hotel room because it was so windy and stormy. I wasn't super keen to go outside, but then once I got onto the run, I went down to the course and watched the race. But it was so crazy to see how different the conditions were just from our race the day before to their race. So which was really good to see and feel and witness, because I mean, that's how the weather could be next year in Tokyo for us. And like, as Tyler said, well, I'm also, Tyler and I are also like compact builds. So if you have like the deeper your wheels, you definitely notice it more. So it would be like definitely an equipment change that I would make if the conditions were like this next year. So it's just nice to know that.
And Summer, you must have been on a high still from the day before.
Yeah, I was. I was watching on Triathlon Live. I think I missed the first half because I went for a run, and I remember thinking on the run, I mean, I was pretty tired, but I just remember running back from like a 20-minute run, like 2 minutes slower than I ran out. And I was just like, maybe it's good that I'm not racing today. But yeah, it was good to see what the conditions could be like for the race. And I just wanted to stay inside because I was hoping to be selected for the mixed relay a few days later and try to recover as best I could.
Mm-hmm. Miriam, were you watching, and did you have your money on anyone at this stage?
Well, it was difficult to think, and also like almost not Spanish there, so we missed them. But yeah, I think it was really good and nice to see the course again, and to see how the race can change, not only for the weather, also for the way the boys race, and also because there weren't a breakaway, and in our race there was. So I don't know, I think was good to see the difference and see everyone racing there, but I also miss the Spanish there on the front.
Yeah, no Mario, no Javi, obviously was a shame, but yeah. So Henry, I mean, as they sort of started to pull away, and as you said, like, you kind of realized this wasn't necessarily going to be your race, but still Johnny and Gus for company.
Yeah, I mean, it would be pointless if I just kill myself trying to stick with them. I wanted to try and finish the race as best as possible. So the best thing was to just run my own pace and not try and stick to the front group. I mean, the guys were looking pretty good. So big ups to them. But yeah, I just want to run through the entire course and, take everything that I can from it.
And Tyler, you had, Casper Jonas, who had, he'd made a couple of plays on the bike. So presumably his legs would have been feeling those. And there was a couple of times just like there where it seemed like you kind of diverged to one side of the track as you tried to pull away. Was that something that you kind of like to throw in sometimes, or?
There was a lot of talking going on at that point. I kind of had said to some of the guys if we take turns, because it was quite windy, but only Hayden really was taking it on with me, which was fine. Everyone's racing their own race, but so yeah, just moving out of the way or doing different things to not make it super easy on the guys. Obviously, if you're running behind, especially on a windy day, it's a big advantage. Although I'm not a huge frame to draft off of, it still is a draft.
And I mean, the close up there, you definitely looked pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I wasn't, my strategy or my coach's strategy obviously was, again, we were planning for a hotter day. So I raced it in a similar way that I would have on a hotter day. I didn't really overextend myself until the last lap. It was kind of running within myself. Within yourself. I mean, you're still hurting. You're racing a triathlon, but as much as you can keep it in control while racing.
Casper actually ran his fastest ever 10K in a race during this race, and it was the same time as yours, Tyler. Again, given the conditions, I suppose maybe it speaks volumes more of the preparation as well. But where does that stand in the kind of realm of your times?
Just off the bike, it just depends on the course. But fresh, I obviously quite a bit quicker fresh. But what I thought was interesting went through my head was the three of us running together. I think if you were a betting man, if someone had bet on three guys running for the win in the last lap, I don't think anyone would have put on a bet sheet the combination of the three of us. It just shows racing, the triathlon, the type of year we have, the depth of guys, that anything can happen on the day. Here we're watching Casper kind of make his move, and it was a pretty dominant move at the time. But right as we're running down the hill here, he saw that I had caught back up, and he started to slow down. And I yelled that Hayden was going to catch us if we slowed down, so I was spurring him on. But you don't see that on the camera. Yeah, if you can see my coach when we go onto the straightaway. My coach is actually right in the background, and it's a nice little visual. You can see his reaction.
Yeah, so like your kind of key takeaway from the race then, Kristian. Obviously, like you said, you didn't get to do the second transition onto the run, but plenty of lessons learned and data taken away and so on.
Yeah, and also I had two teammates who managed to do the full race, so we do share kind of the experience from the race, and so it's still like a good experience to have been able to race through at least the swim and bike, and I have to see being able to see the race on Triathlon Live afterwards as well. It gives you kind of a feeling that you've still been in the race, even though I wasn't at the last part.
Yeah. And just back to you, Flora, coming back from that time out and to be able to have left Tokyo with such a great result can only do wonders for your confidence going into the next 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thrilled with third. Then to be sort of weirdly upgraded to the win was kind of weird, but it felt like my luck was changing. So, I'll take it.
Yeah, this was part of a bigger something going on there.
Strange day.
Yeah, and Miriam, as we said, like a great feeling to know that you're qualified already, and to be able to kind of meticulously plan that next 12 months, huh?
Yeah, now a bit crazy or difficult to plan anything, but yeah, all the focus is in that race, and I have the experience that I qualify in the last moment for Rio, and that was pretty tough to after be ready for the race. So that was my main goal for these 2 years, to qualify as early as possible, and I did it. So yeah, now it's just time to be focused on prepare that race.
Yeah, so like it's been a crazy few months for everybody, so to have that in the bank must have helped. Have you been able to, have you been coping well through the lockdown and able to keep on top of things?
Having my qualification in the bag has definitely helped me stay motivated. Just talking to different people, I know that some people have had a hard time just not knowing what's next, but for me, knowing that I'm going to be on the start line in Tokyo on what we now know is going to be July 27th for the women next year has just gotten me out the door every day and helped me get in some good work. Nothing too crazy or too flashy, but good, consistent work through this time.
Yeah, good. Henri, we hope you continue to get better. How's your health? Like, what kind of percentage are you at, do you reckon?
Probably like 0%. Well, my health, yeah, like I think probably 80% there. We just need to check, make sure that the tests come back clear, so I can get back to training and not put unnecessary stress where my body is already under stress. So this virus, it's a new thing, and we're still learning so much about it, and yeah, you just can't take any chances. The big day is next year, and that's what we are focusing on.
Yeah, for sure. And Tyler, from your parents' basement then in quarantine for a while to you're back to normal training?
Yeah, I'm back on the national centers based out of Victoria, which is a small island off the coast of Canada. Beautiful place. So I'm fortunate that I'm healthy, and I wish Henri the best. I know it's not an easy situation, and yeah, just try to stay healthy. And just like everyone said, next year, Tokyo, we know when it's going to be, well, planned to be. So that's kind of how I'm training and acting in these times. Yeah,
for sure. And Kristian, are you at altitude at the moment? Did you say? Is that your current?
I just came to form yesterday, so finally I got the chance to be in altitude again. As even though I've been home in Norway and been able to do most of the training, we are not allowed to use altitude tent, and there is no really place to go to altitude at home either. So it's good to kind of be back in the altitude and in normal training again ish. And yeah.
Did you get that hat in Austria?
Yeah, I visited the HQ of Red Bull. So, right. but the downside is that I can't put it in the bag, because then we're gonna be floating. Or so I always need to have it on while traveling. So it's a cool one.
Well, obviously it's been great to have you all on, and thanks very much for your time, and excellent to relive the test event with you all.
Yeah, thanks.
Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Some pretty amazing insights into the Tokyo course and mindsets there, and we will of course be having plenty more of those over the next 12 months. Thanks to Kristian, Miriam, Flora, Tyler, Summer and Henri. Next week we'll be hearing from reigning world champion Katie Zaferes as she dials in from Maryland, USA, with her sights on a return to racing. Thanks for listening.